Welcome to the Echo Sportscast Spotlight interview. I'm Paul McLean.
And I'm Dave Dale.
With us today, we have Russ Moyer, City of North Bay Police Officer, former professional hockey player, North Bay citizen born and raised, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So I wanted to start first off because of your role with the police in the community, and maybe talk a little bit about what you do day to day with that, and how North Bay Police are interacting with the City of North Bay.
Yeah, so it all started, I guess, January 2024. Began working in the community engagement role. A little different from what I was used to, obviously. Usually catching bad guys and helping people out. But it was a nice transition for the year, and we had a lot of focus on youth and educating youth and some crime prevention and a couple of different initiatives just to be a little more open and available in the community. As police officers, we all got into the job to help people, and we always, even though we're kind of have uniforms that may not be so approachable, we want to be approachable. We want people to come talk to us, tell us their concerns, what's new and going on in the community, and that's kind of the rapport that our unit was trying to build and has continued to try to build.
So then to back that up, when did the decision come to be, when did you know you wanted to be a police officer?
To be honest, I probably only decided that probably when I was into my 30s. It was something that was always in the back of my mind. The only reason I started playing professional hockey is because I had no clue what I wanted to do when I was like 25 or 26, and then one year turned into another, and obviously, come 31 or 32, you start to slow down, and then you're kind of thinking to yourself, oh, crap, okay, I got to figure out what we're going to do after, have a family and back in North Bay. I had a couple buddies that were involved in policing as I was still playing. When I was home in the summer, I'd do a few ride-alongs here and there and just to get a grasp of it. And then after doing that, I knew it was definitely something I wanted to do, and I think it was something that I knew I'd be good at. So as a police officer, you don't deal with people in their best days. Yeah. Right? So as much as I can say that it's been challenging, obviously, you go through some difficult things, and you have to do some difficult things with peoples and family and things, but it's been a very, very rewarding career, and I feel like I can honestly look in the mirror and say that I've done my best at it. So I'm proud of what I've accomplished in it, and then also how our service has progressed in the last 3 or 4 years especially has really come full circle. We've the morale is far better. We have a lot of younger, enthusiastic officers, so we're definitely trending in the right direction, and I think it's starting to reflect in the community. We see it. I don't know if everybody in the community sees it, but we see it.
And that's right, with the recent hires, lots of the men and women have sports backgrounds.
Yeah, I think it's a transferable skill, being involved in sports teams. We've got a few guys that have played university football, basketball, volleyball. It's a team atmosphere. You have to have each other's back. We go into some things where...
Come on, you guys are just stacking your association team.
Yeah, I wish, but the thing is, we're hiring not hockey players right now, which is fine because they're all good people. So, our hockey team's getting old, a little long in the tooth. We were good about 4 or 5 years ago, and not so good, not so fast anymore. So, Do you have to recruit a goalie or something? Or? Actually, I think we've got a couple of goalies, but that might be our most solid position, to be honest. Yeah. So, but we, it's a transferable skill. You're involved with a team. You show up, you start shift as a team, and everything that everybody's doing throughout the day, it's all on the radio. You all know what everybody's getting into, and it's great to see because if something hot comes on and people are available, everybody's jumping in on it to help out and to be there for each other. So it's a fantastic atmosphere, especially the people that I'm working with right now.
As your role in community liaison, you must have been at the schools a lot?
I did a lot of schools. Since start of December or so of last year, I was moved from community engagement. I still do a little bit kind of on the side just because I've made some contacts over the year, and it's kind of easier for me to just continue on. I was doing a lot of talks, mostly like social media, safety and awareness and things like that to kind of grade 6, 7, 8, 9 students, just because
Someone has to.
Someone has to. It's not. It's not a fun talk, and often it's a talk that comes as a result of something that have happened. So we're trying to get ahead of the game and educate them before someone may make that decision that impacts them their whole life, right? So a lot of the school boards are very on board with it, which is something that we were a little unsure whether they would be, because it is could be a kind of a grown-up subject, even though these kids are using social media and teen, preteen, and stuff like that.
I was talking to a parent with a child that helped point out somebody misusing pornography, and that was able to probably nip it in the bud. And I can only imagine that it's a good time in the person that was doing the badness got a lesson of the consequences.
Of course, yeah. I mean, obviously, sometimes people do things and they have to be charged criminally. Okay, the last thing we ever show up to work to do is to start charging people, and we're hoping to find solutions to problems. Solution of a 12 or 13-year-old misusing social media and I mean, it's unfair to them. They're not educated on it properly. It's an adult tool, and they don't have adult brains, right? So we're trying to make sure that if it's only one person that makes a mistake, that person learns from it, but everybody else that is involved in that school will never make that mistake again. Unfortunately, sometimes for people to learn, mistakes have to happen, but we're doing our best to educate and get ahead of the game so that there's fewer of those mistakes and fewer victims and fewer kids getting into situations that could potentially affect the rest of their lives, and that's what we're really, really hoping to try to prevent. So,
you must get exposed to a lot of good kids doing good things too, right? So that must be inspiring.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, we are very lucky as a community. We have a lot of good programs, a lot of amazing kids that do a great bunch of volunteer work, and it's kind of that old thing where everybody kind of realizes and notices the bad stuff, right? And the people that are doing the good things in the community, and there's so many of them, and I was able to be exposed to that more so than ever in the past year. It's really inspiring, right? And you see kids, whether it's like anti-bullying campaigns or like peer tutoring campaigns and different things like that, where it's just like me looking back at myself as a 12, 13, 14-year-old, I didn't have that maturity. I didn't have that, maybe I was a little too selfish or whatever at that time in my life, but I couldn't ever picture myself being that mature and having that vision and being able to help people. Like it's really amazing.
I've said it many times every time I interview one of these academic athletes. I am put into a very humble state because I remember what I was doing in high school, and it wasn't that.
No. And it's crazy. Like we're hiring some people that are 21, 22, 23. I'm like, I know what I was doing at that age, and I probably wasn't mature enough to be given that responsibility, to have the responsibility to make the decision for people, the decisions for families that police officers are made to do. And I commend all of them because it's amazing. Because I know that I couldn't have done that at that age.
I think back to the Noah Strong ball hockey tournament and seeing you there, and you guys were set up all day. I think for kids growing up too, it's probably taken a long time to get to the point where being comfortable around police officers and it not being like, I don't want to be seen or I don't want to do this. You must find that like that the kids now too engage. I think you guys have been trained better to engage with the kids, but I think kids now are more accepting and used to seeing you guys and see you as a resource as opposed to something to avoid.
Yeah, I think it's a reflection of the shift in the policing methods, right? We're into community policing. We know that community policing shows the greatest return.
Yep.
Gone are the days where you used to police with an iron fist, and if you hear the horror stories or the stories of old where you did something and you looked at an officer the wrong way, and then different things happen, and that absolutely never happens anymore. We're held to such a high standard, and critique and our every move while we're on shift is potentially on video. I mean, we don't have body cams yet, but they're coming. But everything we do is scrutinized. And we know that if we are to inspire and gain the trust of people, they just have to see that we are regular people.
Yeah.
I live in North Bay. I know that when I work, I treat everybody with respect, the utmost respect, until they disrespect me. And then it's up to them how they dictate our interaction. Mm-hmm. I bring my family out to dinner downtown. I go wherever. I've never had an issue. In fact, some of the people I deal with, I'll say hi. They see me, they'll say hi to me. I'll say hi to them while I'm with my family. I have no issues. They know we're doing a job, and when it comes down to it, we're just regular people doing a job now. Mm-hmm. Difficult job often, but oftentimes it's not a job that you're ever going to please anybody with, unfortunately. But we're just normal people.
Yeah.
Approach us, talk to us, because we want to know what's going on. And just like the Noah Strong Day and different days we've had throughout the last year, I've had kids come up where it was the first time they ever felt comfortable approaching a police officer, whether it was something happened in their home and they had a poor experience where something was happening, whatever, it was just the first time. And then you talk and they realize that you're just a person that's into helping people when it comes down to it. So,
do you think the social media portrayal of cops doing bad things gets in the way sometimes?
Well, I think it goes back to the fact that you see the bad more than the good, right?
Right, same way.
So,
yeah,
and that's it. It's the same as an athlete. They can make 100 perfect plays, but you throw a pizza up the middle and it ends up in your net in overtime, and you're the worst hockey player ever, right? It's the same thing. You mess up 1% of the time, or
if you don't cover the guy in the slot, all of a sudden you're Matthews.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean? Like it's the scrutiny that when it's the armchair quarterback, I could have done it better. Yeah. Well, probably not, because this person has a 99.8% success rate. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. There's the people that love to get a rise out of officers videoing, and when it comes down to it, I'm not going to lie. There are some bad cops. There are some cops that don't know what they're doing. I believe that a lot of those videos are from south of the border. I feel like we're very well trained in Canada. We know what our authorities are, what we can and cannot do. And I find as a person, we're far more respectful to the people that we deal with. That being said, the stuff that they deal with, the amount
off the chart.
The amount of guns, the amount of the different traumas and the repeated exposure to that's going to have anybody heightened. And so I'm not justifying sometimes what they do, but it definitely speaks to why those things happen down there far more than here. Well, we're very well supported for our mental health too. Mm-hmm. And we've had officers go down to training in the States, and it's basically like, if something really bad happens, we're supported if we take a day or two and get our stuff together, make sure that we come back in the proper frame of mind. Day or two, it could be months, could be a year, whatever. But when we come back, we come back clear, healed, ready to work. Down there, it's just, you could be next call 10 minutes later. Mm-hmm. So it's a big difference.
I lived in Ohio and Pennsylvania, and had my interactions with police officers, and it's a different thing.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Totally different. They got their hands on the gun as soon as they're coming to you. Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes too in the United States, whether it's teachers, firefighters, police officers too, I don't think we understand they maybe get held in a regard that's positive, but I don't know that they're always the job in terms of the support, whether it's benefits or mental health and how they look.
They don't get paid as well either.
And like they're definitely almost like. It's almost like the places take advantage of the people that are willing to do it. And they are really put through a ringer. And then that social media thing happens all the time too, where, here's a 30-second snippet, but if you watch 5 minutes of the interaction and you saw everything that built up to it, and that goes both ways, but definitely how things are portrayed when we see a quick video or only read the headline.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's when it comes down, like, I'm a big proponent, and everybody that I work with is a proponent of us getting body cams. Yeah. And we actually have the body cam. It's just the infrastructure that goes around having that is immense for a service our size. Yeah. It holds us accountable. I'm all for that, but also holds the public accountable. We're like, oh, I'm actually going to be on video, and anything I say or do is going to be recorded, right? Yeah. So,
and it's all evidence.
Exactly. And we're definitely making strides to hopefully get that into effect sooner rather than later. So
Hey, let's take a left turn, Clyde, into sports. I want to hear about your European hockey experience.
Yeah. It was pretty awesome, to be honest. Yeah, I was lucky.
Where did you play junior hockey and then go from there?
So junior hockey, I first started Tier 2 hockey when I was 15, I think, with Sturgeon Falls Lynx.
Right.
Yeah. So I played there.
Who was your coach?
Mike Heafy.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So he was, I think that would have been 97, 98, something like that. And then I moved down to Elmira Sugar King. So originally I was pretty small. I was a defenseman, but I was like 130 pounds. So it's like
mobile defenseman.
Yeah, but I was only 130 pounds, so I just kind of floated around. But me playing major junior wasn't really even a thought, just because of my size. It was like, well,
Sugar King's good. That's a good organization.
Oh, yeah. So I was like, oh, maybe by the time I'm 18, 19, I'll be big enough, I'll go to the NCAA. So had a good year there. I was 16. I was defense partners with Dennis Weidman, who was 15. And we were both really good that year. We did well, and we had a good team. And I got some attention from junior hockey, from the OHL. And my one assistant coach was a scout with Ottawa 67s, and he basically said, "You're going to play there next year. We got a spot for you." Mm-hmm. Okay, so they drafted me in the 6th round. I was rated around there. Probably I had a couple teams saying maybe a little earlier, but anyways, I got drafted the 6th round. Went there, had a good camp first 2 days, and I knew that back then it was like a strict 48-hour rule. And basically, I started packing my gear because it was done. I hadn't been told I was signed. I started packing my gear, and then I, not that I was big, but I think I did well. I had a couple fights, and I fought a couple guys that were far bigger than me, and I did all right. Those are probably the only 2 fights that I did not lose my whole life. So, and then, I packed up my stuff. I started walking out, and Zen and Konopka was like, "What the hell are you doing?" So, "Oh, I'm done." Like 40 hours, and then he left and went and spoke to Killer, and we were loading up the car, and Killer came up in the parking lot and was like, "You're not going anywhere." I was like, "Okay." And then when he says that, you're just like, "Okay," like NHL Hall of Famer and stuff. So,
elaborate a little bit on the coach.
Yeah. So Brian Kilray, I think he's still the winningest coach in CHL history. I have no clue, but
maybe Dale Hunter.
Maybe, yeah,
might have, but yes,
the most respected winningest coach.
Yes.
Yeah. So, he was an amazing coach. Like an amazing person. Like he treated everybody with so much respect. He was like in his late 60s when I played with him, or played for him. I say with him because that's how it felt. Like I played for him, and like, even though I was 17, 18, 19, 20, I could approach with him and speak with him on the same level. It was different back then because it was like we'd have beer on the bus after. He'd come back. We'd have a couple of beers. He'd tell us stories. Like, and this is how different it was. Like, if we were on nowadays, it's like basically pro hockey.
Yeah.
When we were on a 3 or 4 hour road trip to like Peterborough or Oshawa, we'd leave that day. I think now they'd probably leave the day before. So we'd go to school till noon. We'd show up at the rink, pack our bags, and on the bus would be KFC. That was the pregame meal on the bus to the game. A little different now. Him and his few other buddies.
If everybody does it, it's equal.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had Killer and Bert O'Brien was a defense coach. They were like longtime buddies. They were smoking their cigars. They had another 3 or 4 buddies that were around the same age, guys they had grown up with in Ottawa. Like a guy named Stumpy Tank, and like these, it's hilarious. And they were just all smoking their cigars and cigarettes at the front of the bus while we're on our way to the game. And then after the game, they'd be doing the same, but just having some beers, and they'd come back and tell stories from the old days, and it was a great time. I mean, it helped because we won all the time. Like, we were 45, 50 wins a year, it seemed like. We were always at the top, always making playoff runs. So, like, in 4 years, I had curfew for, like, 3 nights. It was, I think we won, like, the first 14 games my very first year. We lost, like, the third of a 3-game road trip, 5 or 6-0, and we got curfew till that Thursday, and that was the only time we ever had curfew. We showed up. He treated us like men. probably not the best thing though. But we kept winning. We had great teams. We were best of friends. We'd win 2 or 3 games on a weekend, and we'd go have some beers on Sunday night.
Yeah.
And then rinse and repeat. That being said, the way things that were done there, it probably wasn't conducive. That's why we never produced. We had great teams, but we didn't produce a lot of NHLers. And we had some guys that should have been really good NHLers, but probably needed proper guidance. Probably needed proper
different development system.
Yeah, less freedom, and guys that got into some trouble with some
an interesting point.
Substances and stuff, which in hindsight is sad. I think all of us, we had a ton of fun. I would not give up those 4 years for anything. But in hindsight, I probably would have given up that portion of it. Personally, I don't think it would have changed my career at all, my career path, because I was never the high prospect or anything like that. Like my career path was pretty much probably as it should have been. But there's a couple guys who
had potential,
had a lot of potential. Like my last year, we had Corey Locke, who ended up being a great American League player. Has nothing to do with substance abuse for him. That's where he was. He was not a big guy, but like he had like 66 goals that year. Then we had Matt Foy. I don't know if that name means anything to you, but he had 64, 65 goals, had like 20 plus shorthanded goals. He was like 6'4" and 220 pounds. But then turned professional, had a little bit more money, and that was basically his demise. Mm-hmm. It was very sad. There was a couple other guys. I could probably go on for a few more, but it's just But that being said, we were kind of, not to swear, but we were the cat's ass of the OHL for 4 years, and they were for a couple years before me and a couple years after me. Like they had an amazing run, and we just kept winning and having fun. So it was cool.
And after that.
That was a little long-winded, eh?
It's a lot to talk about, though.
I honestly don't remember the last time I went back that far and talked about stuff like that. So,
You went to Acadia next.
Yeah, I went to Acadia next. So, I was lucky enough, went to Acadia. They had been struggling. I got there. We had a good recruit class. Started improving, had another good one. It seemed that any Ottawa guy that was kind of aging out and that wasn't going pro, they were coming to us. And then I think we won the Atlantic Conference my second year. Went out to the Nationals, lost there in the finals, I think, and then lost a couple deeper runs in Atlantic. Like they're not long runs, but a couple rounds. And then, we always had really good teams, really, really good teams, good coaches. That was fun hockey too. It was a pretty high level.
What did you take in university?
I was a history major.
Right.
Yeah. I'd originally kind of intended on being a teacher, but I wasn't the best of students, I'll be honest. And that goes to the Ottawa thing. Like it was, if you went to school, you went to school. If you didn't feel like going to school, they weren't
going to press it on you or make sure.
And as far as schooling, I probably needed someone to be riding me, be like, hey, you need to do this. It's not that I'm not intelligent, but like I needed to.
You would have benefited from.
I would have benefited with more structure and like, hey, you need to get X amount on.
I think a lot
uptake this average and stuff, and I would have been fine to do that. However, there was no bar set, so I never had anything to shoot for, and I guess at that time my energy was more focused on hockey, and I just didn't have the skills to divide those focuses and succeed at both at that time. So,
was it a hard decision, or was the decision made for you about not going pro versus taking that school package and going out east?
It wasn't hard.
Yeah.
When no one wants you. No. Like, to be honest, I had a pretty good last year in junior. My last 2 years were pretty good as far as like points and like playing a ton and on really good teams and winning and stuff. But I think I finished my OHL career at like 150 pounds, 150. Like I still had not grown much. And so I wasn't. This is like 2002. It's like pre-lockout, pre-rule changes. It's like everybody defenseman is
6'6", scored 2 points, and you're getting drafted.
And
but
smash
you
it off, smash it off the glass, and then box out and hold guys against the boards. And that wasn't my game, which was fine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my first year in Ottawa, I think I started off quite well, and I was lucky. I always played a lot.
Yeah.
I always played with really good partners. So I remember, like, after a couple months, you got like a letter from a couple NHL teams. They're just like these 500 questionnaires.
Yep.
And it was just, I'm going to the NHL.
Yeah.
And that's like the closest I ever got.
And then off
That's
to
closer
Europe.
than a lot of other people ever get.
And then off to Europe.
Yeah. So like I said, I wasn't that great of a student growing up. I did a little bit better at university, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, I'm going to go play 1 year. Play 1 year of hockey and I'll figure it out. Like, I didn't sign a contract anywhere till middle of August. I had gotten injured at the end of the year at university, so I didn't work out very well and stuff. So I ended up going to Chicago Wolves camp, and I didn't do as well as I should have there because I wasn't prepared. But I ended up having a pretty good year in Muskegon, like the United League. I got called up to Grand Rapids for a couple games, played power play, played a lot, and I got smoked from behind my second game right at the end, and got carried off the ice by Darren McCarty because he was making a comeback that year.
Okay, I remember that.
And because I think he had gone broke, and then he had to come back to get to. So he carried me off, and that was basically the end of that year. I was like, wow, I can't end my career like that. So I got to play one more year.
Yeah.
And then went to like Bridgeport's camp, did really well there, and it's like, but then after their preseason, didn't get signed there, and never got any call-ups that year, even though I had a really, really good year. I was like, well, I think I on the wall here.
Yeah.
So went to Europe, a couple years in Denmark. Fantastic. My wife was there with me for those years. Met so many great people that came over to our wedding and everything, that friends that we'll have for life. And then 2 years there, and then I went to Sweden for 4 years. I did 2 years in Björklöven up in the north of Sweden. Our second year,
What years were you in Sweden?
2010, 2011, I believe, up until 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I started off in the third league there. And then Björklöven was an old like elite league team. They had basically gone bust, had gotten their financials back. But when you go bust, you got to start at the bottom and work your way back up. So I ended up signing there. And then our second year made our way up to the second league, where they still are now. Before the end of that year, I'd signed with a team in the second league. Had a good year the following year there. Didn't sign anywhere else for some time, probably till middle of July or so. And then went to a team called Karlskrona. So they had been a team that had a newer organization that had kind of climbed up, and they had just barely stayed in the league the previous year. We were expected to finish like 13 out of 14 that year because we were a whole bunch of like kind of players no one really wanted, late signings, a bunch of young guys that never panned out in elite league teams.
Bad news bears.
Pretty much. We had a really good coach who was kind of, I don't know how great he was technically. We had a good assistant coach, but our head coach was really kind of good at gathering and, having a common goal, making sure whatever your job was, you felt important and you felt pride about it. So whether, like I came in there, I was like playing power play and playing a lot, and had like a couple weeks where I didn't play very well. And he's like, okay, well, it's not your role now. Move a young guy in, and he excelled at it. And then my role went from being an offensive guy to defensive shutdown guy. But he still made me feel like I was doing well, right? And the team was doing well, which helped. And so it was a really important learning curve for me, even though I was into my 30s by then.
You're learning how to coach.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Not that I coach, but
You've helped out with lots of teams, though. You've been a part.
I help out with the Blue Hockey for Beginners in North Bay from time to time.
Well, talk about that.
But so we ended up. It was a big year because they're increasing the league, the elite league, from 14 to 16 teams, or 12 to 14. Anyways, there's 2 more teams. We went in after Christmas. We were about middle of the pack, and we just went on a crazy run. Other teams were bringing in ex-NHLers to try to get that, because if you go from Allsvenskan to Elite League, you're looking at like an extra like $15-20 million worth of TV money. So the teams were investing. And we went in, we beat a team that had like 4 or 5 ex-NHLers. to clinch like a series and move up. So after that, I knew I wasn't elite league caliber. I'd had a couple of little injuries and my hips were kind of going a little bit. And so then Patty and I, my wife, decided to make the jump to the UK where she could teach and things like that. So made the jump to the UK in Sheffield for a year. Played in like the Champions Hockey League. So we played against teams, we played against Finland. Like we played against Frölunda, a Swedish elite league team, and Swedish or a Finnish team. And believe it or not, like we were a UK side, but like had 12, 14 guys that were all kind of American League East Coast caliber, and we tied the one game and lost the other games by a goal or two. And so we were very respectful. It was a good experience. And then finished my last 2 years off in Fife in Scotland, about 20 minutes from St. Andrews. So I'm a golfer. So I got my golfing in. I got my golf fix in at a bunch of nice courses. Scotland is the best place in the world. Like it was an amazing place to live and work. And my wife worked there and made so many good friends. And a lot of friends that we met through hockey, but just are not associated with hockey entirely. Like, and it's people that we speak to this day. And sometimes I got friends that are heading over for golf trips and different things, and I put them in contact and they organize it. Scotland was amazing.
Well, there's a young lad here, Troy Lajeunesse. He played in the UK for a bit. I think he's in
Denmark right now. So Troy, funny, like it's kind of weird. 2 days ago, I think my wife and I were talking about Troy.
Okay.
Yeah. So I worked out with him in town here when he was kind of coming up, just starting in Sarnia and things like that. And then, maybe his second, third year in Sarnia, we'd work out together and then continually on from there a little bit. He, his last season played in Fife where I played, did quite well. And then he moved over to Denmark. Mm-hmm. In Aalborg, where I played for 2 years in Denmark. So he's played the same places I play, which is kind of fun. And two great spots. So I'm sure he's having a good time.
Well, it's great that, sports can bring you around the world if you let it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's honestly, I kind of tell people I'm probably going to have to work when I'm a little bit later because I was never good enough to make boatloads of money. But I kind of lived the retired lifestyle in my 20s. You got your traveling in. Got my traveling and my retired lifestyle in our 20s and 30s. And so if that means I have to work into my 60s and whatever, so be it.
I'm working until I'm 75, so join the club.
Well, my parents are on the same thing, so yeah.
So now you're getting into the sports journey as a parent with Cal starting into T-ball in beginners, and you got Jed will be, following him up. I've gotten to know your parents, Louise and Al, really well, being in the neighborhood. We're neighbors, and anytime they were bringing Cal back, always just had so much time to talk to not only my kids, but other kids in the neighborhood. The kids be out playing catch and just always taking the time. And I love your parents. Have been fantastic for us and a big help even with Rory sharing rides and stuff with billeting one of her teammates. But what are some of the things maybe that your parents brought to you in hockey and in sports growing up that, you're going to try and
let's plug their business, Moyer Printing.
Moyer Printing, yeah. Yep. Moyer Printing, yeah. So they've been doing that since originally Fosdick's, but it's since 1982. So they've been on a good run for that. From my parents, I was lucky they exposed me and my brother and I to like basically any sport we wanted to. They encouraged us. We played rep baseball. We played golf and traveled around golf tournaments as youths, and obviously we both played hockey together at the highest level we possibly could.
What high school?
What high school did I go to?
Yeah, I
went to Schollard for grade 9 and 10, and then I started moving away for hockey. So when I'd come back, I'd go to Chippewa to finish school years.
Just want to get that out there.
Okay, yeah, and then they were always exposed to us, or they always exposed us to every sport, and then basically gave us the opportunity. They were super encouraging. They held us accountable because if they were going to make an investment, they wanted a good effort, right? And that's all they asked for was the effort and to make it look like we cared and we wanted to be there. And likely, according to other parents, while growing up, my brother and I probably cared a little too much.
Yeah.
Fine. There's nothing wrong with a little intensity.
I agree.
Okay. But my parents, they encouraged us, basically. They gave us the opportunity, they encouraged us, and they held us accountable. And I think that's basically what I want for my kids. Like, I honestly couldn't care if it's sports. I got to expose them to sports. If it's anything they want to do.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, just do it as much as you can, as hard as you can. If we're going to be spending the time and the money, I think that's what any parent wants. And if you're looking for more than that, then you're totally out of whack.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to make money at a sport or music or anything like that, you're looking at less than 0.5% of a chance to make a penny out of it. So if you're looking to try to turn someone pro, you're sadly mistaken.
I talk a lot to, obviously years of getting to watch it, and now the kids that started as hockey players have now like graduated. They're through programs and stuff. And what I've always been telling parents and tried to live myself was, it's a really long journey. And for 99% of us, the destination is not where you were hoping it was going to be. So you better enjoy that ride, because that's the lesson. That's what you gain from it.
Well, I think, and those lessons were far more transferable into what I'm doing now than they ever were at hockey. Obviously, hockey was my goal and my passion. And my parents supported me and my brother doing that. And he played at a high level as well. And he was a really good player. And, but it's kind of the patience, the work ethic, different things like that have transferred into the accountability to teammates that have transferred over to policing, to my career now. But yeah, and I got to commend you though, Paul. I don't want you to get your head too big there,
okay.
But like your youth sports programs, the T-ball and the base and the hockey couldn't be more perfect for the kids.
Thank you.
Couldn't be more perfect. Mixture of initial skills, the fun, the taking into account the fact that kids have a attention span of a goldfish yes. and moving them on and around, and then the people that are helping you. That's just like amazing, and it's setting like a nice groundwork and foundation for if people want to actually get serious about the sport. They have the structure and they have the initial skills to develop into that, which is amazing. So,
thank you. I appreciate that, and fortunately, I have a really good crew at home that keeps me from ever getting my head too big.
Yeah.
So we're good that way. But and again, I couldn't say enough about all the people that help do that. So the work that Laura McKenzie does at the store is Laura Maddie. But yeah, it's great, and it's also been just something I've taken from all of the people that have all I'm doing is just bottling up other people's good ideas. So I'm happy to do it, and it's great for everything. And again, I really appreciate you saying that. I appreciate everything that the relationship that I think the North Bay Police have with the sports community, and you're a great ambassador for that too. So
thanks.
Yeah.
Well, this is a great place to wrap it up, and it's great. And hearing you talk, I can hear the passion and the genuine sort of respect you have for what you do in the community, right? So that comes through, and North Bay Police should be glad to have you.
Well, I'm not the only one that's like, everybody that works there is like that. So I think I'm a representative of what the general attitude is around there. So
yeah, there you go, team player, right?
Absolutely.
That's a professional answer, right? No, that's the truth, though.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having
me. And continue doing your good stuff. You've been listening to another Sportscast Spotlight. I'm Dave Dale.
I'm Paul McLean.
Please like, share, and comment, and that helps us. Have a good day.